Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible in all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young and I'm one of your contemplative, rational hosts. Joining me as always is our other contemplative and rational host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always.
Hi, Ann. I'm good. How are you?
Good. These were tougher ones to pick this week. I couldn't find any I really liked, but they're fine.
I think it's going to be thinking hard.
Yeah.
You're like, thinking, yeah. A hard thinking using our brains.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It'll be lots of questions like, so what do you think about thinking? Oh, how much fun.
I know. So, I'm going to tell you my crack.
Yes, please do.
I had a friend visit from back home, and our friend, like, we've all been friends since like high school. So like I was 14 and the two of them are older than me. So like they were probably like 16, 17. So we were hearkening back to the days of being younger when we thought we could do things as younger people, like indulge in that one too many cocktail hour or whatever.
Yep.
And so it was super fun. I have to tell you that we went to the Comic-Con Museum.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in San Diego.
Ooh,
by Balboa Park. I didn't know if you knew that existed, but it does.
I did not.
So like there's like 3 floors, and the top floor is like more for kids stuff and like special like exhibits, and then the middle floor they have like actual like film props from like The Rocketeer and
now you're talking my language.
Terminator 2, and I actually saw the DeLoreon.
Nice.
And then I watched.
We
do. So I watched. Do you want to get into that, or do you want to? Is that like a separate?
We can make an episode about that because I feel like there is a lot.
Yeah.
Let's slide that off into a separate episode. I think.
Anyways,
we could talk a lot about
I saw freaking DeLorean from the second movie because it had the fusion. The garbage fusion thingy on the back.
Fusion.
Mr. Fusion. Not the like extra beefed up one from the third movie. So it was definitely from the second movie. And I didn't know that they had only made 9,000 of these cars. And Mike was like, "Why'd they use the DeLorean?" And I'm like, "It's the only car that looks like, a spaceship.
Yes,
I mean,
does.
other than a Citroen from like the 70s, but that would be more like the Jetsons, kind of.
Yeah,
as opposed to, right.
Like so, almost like a UFO-y sort of type of thing.
Exactly. And then the first floor was all like original, from 1 to like 100th edition of all of the different Marvel and DC comics.
Nice.
So it was like, this is where the Green Goblin appears for the first time in the Spider-Man comics, and it was just like. It's so interesting, this concept of comic books. Like, I remember reading comic books as a kid, and like you read them again, you read them maybe a third time, and then you check them, right? So it's like all of these comic books, and I didn't know the rating system. Like, all this stuff, and I don't. So I was like, what's a 6.5? And my friend was like, oh, that means it's a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. So they had, ones that were like 9s and ones that were 10s, and it was just like, but this idea of like, 1950s, 1960s comics, like, you have them, you go away to college, your mom gets rid of them. So it's like all of this art has just been put into landfills, and, it was made of crappy paper. So it wasn't meant to last forever. Right. So it was neat. Yeah, it was neat to see so many pieces of history, and especially now that like all of those stories have become so mainstream.
Me being me, when he talked about reading a comic book and then throwing it away, I had a visceral reaction. I was like, "Oh no, what? Throwing comic books away?"
Did you ever throw a comic book away?
Probably some. Like, I mean, there was like UK reprints of stuff that we would get. I think I probably got rid of most of those, but by and large, all my like American single issue comics I still have like boxed up somewhere. Though I I have a big collection, and I don't think I will ever touch them again. So I'm thinking it's time to like sell them. It's just I just haven't got around to that yet. I know, but like you have no idea how many I have.
Well,
it's so much space. That is like the main thing that's put me off them. You know.
So my friend that was visiting, I remember. I think I told you this. Like he moved from one place to another, and we helped him. This is back when you could ask your friends to help you move and like offer them pizza and beer, and they would do it. And now we're like, we're too old. You go hire a mover, and we'll pitch in for that.
Hell yeah.
But like his comic, I want to say like big, like you know, like the big 3 by
the big boxes.
The big boxes. I think he had like 20 of them.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah,
I've got like about 10 or 12, I think. Yeah. So that's impressive.
Yeah, and he ended up having to sell off a lot of them, you know, for like financial reasons. But
yeah. I think that's why I should do it,
Yeah, well, but like I asked him, I was like, do you regret it? And he was like, oh yeah. But he's like, you know what I do now is like, they've got everything online.
Yeah.
So you can go and read. So that's what he does for fun.
And I replace it with like editions, like, and there's also like big, you know, you call them absolute editions, which are oversized and really beautiful paper, and I like those a bit better, and they look nice in the bookshelf, and I do go back and read them every now and again, so I kind of like that as a substitute, you know, but it'll be hard to say goodbye to them, so we'll see.
No, and then he was telling me they had a Stan Lee something. Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he went to Comic-Con in like 2007 and met Stan Lee and like was signed by Stan Lee, but he was kind of like, I don't know if Stan knew he was there necessarily. They just kind of like trotted him out, and he, you know, $100 an autograph and that kind of thing. So, but
even the time I saw him, it felt like that a wee bit, like he was kind of like a bit, because I mean, the queue to see him was so massive.
Of course.
It must be overwhelming, you know, so, yeah.
Would you want to sit for hours and just, like, sign your name over and over again?
No.
And have you be like, I love you so much. I love you so much.
Oh, my God. Yeah, and you're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. I'd be like, silence, please.
Yeah. I need to go there whenever I'm out. I definitely have to go to that, actually. I really would love to see it.
Yeah. And, I you know, it's like, now I'm living here, so I should probably go.
Yeah.
Because it's like 45 minutes from my house.
There's so much in California, though, you know, in terms of there's so much for you to see and do.
We are the biggest state. I think we're the biggest economy and the biggest state. And Mike and I argued about this the other day. And I was like, no, it's Texas. And he was like, no, it's California. And then we looked it up. And he was fucking right. And I was like, ugh. So mad. So.
It's not cool.
I know, right?
That's not cool.
I know. How are you?
I'm good. So I have also been. I've had friends. One of my friends who was living in South America for like 6 months to come bak home. So we had a few drinks on Friday. I'm having a particularly boozy month. Honestly,
Me too.
I'm trying to really knock. This March needs to be different. I can't hack the pace at all anymore. And then the next evening, my friend, a few other friends who were back from France, and they bought a lot of cheese, a lot of wine, back as you do, and had like a really nice party with a sort of like a alpine sort of theme, and it was great fun. And my favorite, and of course my favorite thing to do is karaoke, and they had like karaoke set up, so it was great fun. So it was just a couple of like chaotic days, and and also like a fool, I had bought, so I made kimchi at the weekend as well, and I bought all the stuff on Thursday, and I kind of like have to use it in the next few days.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't be able to on Sunday, so I was like, I guess I'm doing this on Saturday, really fucking hungover, and it's so much work. But I got it done. I haven't tried it yet because it needs its time to like, you know, ferment and things like that, but it looks good. So,
that's good. And I was going to say it's terrible hungover food, so you don't want to be...
No. I don't want to be tasting it on that day, but it's going to be good in the future, hopefully, and I've made a shitload, so hopefully it'll do me for an entire year. Fingers crossed. I do love kimchi.
So do you can it and everything and like do the whole like...
I put it in jars. I put it in mason jars and like old jam jars and peanut butter jars and things like that. So I've got like a a shitload of it.
But do you have to like pasteurize it and like?
No,
you don't.
You basically have to. The whole process is
refrigerate. I know nothing about kimchi, other than eating it.
You kind of need to leave it to ferment for a while. They recommended a few days, either 2 weeks in the fridge or 2 days in a dark cupboard somewhere. But I think last time I left it in a dark cupboard for like 2 weeks because it will ferment faster and it was still pretty good. So I think I'm just going to do that again, at least a week anyway, and see how it goes from there. I understand that kimchi is not for everyone, but it is. I'm very happy that I have some of my own finally. I'm going to be able to start making kimchi fried rice and all these fun things that I've been kind of missing out on. Because you can't buy it here. It's hard to come across, and it's not of the best quality either, So
when did you like find your love of kimchi? Was it when you lived in
Korea?
Yeah.
And I really didn't like it at first, and then grew to love it, and then grew to find all the different varieties of it. You can get spicier stuff and milder stuff, obviously stuff that's more dry, stuff that's a bit more saucy, and you kind of find the type that you like,
Saucy kimchi.
Oh, saucy kimchi's my number one. You're gonna be able to try whenever you come over. You're gonna be able to try some.
I'm excited.
So
for those that are listening, we're actually gonna hang out again.
Yeah.
Other than on the pod. So I'm flying to Ireland in 2 months-ish.
Yeah, it is 2 months-ish, yeah.
So the countdown begins. Ha-ha!
Yeah, well, we're looking for the bougiest accommodation we possibly can.
He was like, what about this place? And I was like, it had a tennis court and a castle on the property. And I was like, how can I fucking say no to that? I can't even. The place I made you stay in Portugal, I'm just, I'm a little embarrassed
I like that place.
now. I did too. It was sweet. And it was,
in the right area. But yes, so that's fun. So we're
right by the castle.
Yeah.
And the peacocks.
It's true. Yeah, for my what is the crack section this week, I have just written more drinking. What am I thinking? Which just sums it up. I should have just said that rather than really get into it, But yeah, right, I'm a poet. I don't know it.
I know you're a poet. You didn't know it.
Okay, so let's get to our next section, which is what's occurring.
I have questions. Okay, so we have feedback. Yeah. One of this was about our last episode, which I got 2. Sorry. I couldn't remember. Yeah, I have 3 comments. Okay. I think it was the last episode where we were talking about the Venn diagram and where in the world you are and how it relates to the United Kingdom and Ireland and the British Isles. So someone said, I think we can solve all... it's basically where, what do you call where you live and why it's always so difficult for you to answer that question and how uncomfortable you get. For those that are watching, he looks really uncomfortable right now.
Squirming, yeah.
So this person said, I think we can solve all potential arguments by summarizing him simply as British.
I'm not okay with that.
And then he said the sun never sets, little boy. What does that mean?
So do you know the term the sun that never sets in the British Empire?
No. Okay.
So for a while,
because they colonized everything all over the place.
Yeah. Huh. It's really gross, and that's what he's talking about there. That's
terrible,
isn't it? Yeah.
So offended or not?
About being called British, deeply offended, and I know who it was, and I know where you live, and I'm coming for you. He's saying that because he knows it'll offend me. So that's why I love it, Not really.
And then we had somebody else comment on episode 2, which was about friendship being the best ship. So this is a little long, so bear with me, but it's nice feedback. Friendship was my first episode. Thanks for the insight. I think this is a great topic. I appreciate the nuance of friendship early in life versus later in life, as well as possible difference between men's and women's friendships. What stuck with me most was the care you both put into the conversation, the fact that you arrive with a ton of questions, highlights, how much expression and care, and even when we adore someone who we're very close to. There's so much we don't always know. So I know this person. That's what they're like. Oh, I didn't know that, like, you know, all this stuff about you. That. So, and they said that they approve of the chat. So, check.
That's what we like to hear.
That's right. Sorry, you're British, but someone else approves of the chat. Yeah. And then someone else had a response to us not liking Star Wars because it's the same story over and over in every series. But they said that we should check out the comics. Have you checked out the comics?
Yeah, I've read some. I've read some of the new Marvel stuff, but not loads.
This person said check out the Vader 2015 comic, and said
I've heard
an amazing story. Okay. Okay.
Because so it's an author.
This is your homework.
Okay, I've got it. Because I really like that author. I like Kieran Gillen. He's written a lot of comics I like, so I should check that out. I will. I will make an effort. Okay, I'll get back to you. That'll be my what's bringing me joy. Hopefully in the next week or two.
There you go. So, and I'll have to respond to this person on YouTube and let them know what you think.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
But I appreciate I appreciate them.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's great. Yeah. No, that's exactly the sort of feedback I want.
You're not allowed to disagree with us, people. I don't know. No.
We're always right, okay?
Yep. Just shuffle us out. Let us sign our autograph for $100. Don't talk to us and shuffle us back in the room.
That's all we're looking for. In our old age, being pushed out in walkers.
Which if we keep drinking, what were we thinking? Like, it's gonna happen sooner or later.
I know, that's true.
I know. What about you? Those are
have any what's occurring. We have talked about. I suppose my what's occurring a little bit is we talked about Saltburn previously.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
I had a good comment. Oh, it took me a second to bring it back up. That a friend pointed out to me was describing Saltburn as American pie for people who got a 2-2 in psychology from a former polytechnic college. Which really made me laugh.
What is a 2-2?
Okay, so whenever you get a degree in the UK, they have basically you can get a diploma, which means you didn't really get your full degree. Then the grades are 2-2, 2-1, 1, or is it 1-1? Is the highest. I can't remember exactly.
Because you never got there.
No, fuck no. I got a 2-2, which is the party degree.
Right.
And also, actually, that's a whole other story. I felt quite annoyed about that because I felt like I worked hard enough to get a 2-1, but it's a whole thing. It's just as I say, it's just a shame with, I think that, like, I really quite enjoyed her previous film a bit more, Promising Young Woman. I thought it was a much more interesting film. I still think it had problems, but it was better. It was more cohesive. I just thought that the ending undid any of the kind of interesting elements of it that were early on. I thought there was some sort of a certain amount of ambiguity and things like that early on that were just like smashed into the ground to pieces by the end, and I thought that was a bit disappointing.
I think there could have been, so I watched it a couple times just because it's like visually stunning, and I think as an American, like the interesting thing was we don't have like real history here. Like our history doesn't go more than like 300 years, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As part of like being like the United States of America, obviously like there were many people here before we became that, but what was interesting was you have all these old houses that have been around for thousands of years, and like, but now you have people of today living in those houses, and the juxtaposition of that, of people doing karaoke in this like giant ballroom living room with like the server standing there looking embarrassed for like all of the, you know, hedonistic stuff that's happening in front, and it just those two things are so out of sync for me. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right. But I know that people actually live in these homes and like have regular lives and dress like they do, you know, in today's world. But that just looked odd.
It does,
and it was and it was interesting.
I agree.
And I wanted to see more of that, and I wanted to see more of his love for that lifestyle and the house itself.
Yeah, I think that they could have lent into that a bit more and like left us with more of an ambiguous sort of ending, and it would have been it could have been much more interesting film, but instead they decided, I won't spoil what the end it is, but instead they just decide to do something which is kind of cheap and fairly dumb, in my opinion.
I mean, the cheapest one is like, oh, and then I woke up and it was all a dream. It wasn't that.
No.
Which I've used
Thankfully.
in some of my own personal work.
Wow, I love it. Wow. Okay.
I would have gotten a tutu.
You would have. Okay. So yeah, I think it's about time to maybe move on to our subject for today, and which we have tentatively titled "Thinking Hard."
Thinking hard.
Thinking hard.
Thinking hard.
Essentially, like, I pitched this to Beth as something talk about thought processes, but also thinking about free will and how that connects with all of that. But disclaimer up front, I'm a dumb guy. I'm not smart. I've just read about these things. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. Take everything I say with a pinch of salt. And it's certainly, whenever I was reading a bit more about it this week, and I've had opinions about this sort of stuff for a few years, but reading more about it this week, it talked about the fact that some of these thoughts or some of these ways of thinking about free will can be tough for people who are depressed and can lead to like existential crises. So I want everybody to be fully aware of that before we go any further. Fortunately for me, I am always either in an existential crisis or circling one. So it's easy for me to talk about these things. I'm just always there in this just tantalizingly close to madness.
Yes. And I'll also preface this to say that like I did a little digging into this concept or the larger concepts around free will and predestination, and nobody knows.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
Scientific American, like Stanford, like there's these like this year in 2024, it's only February, they're still writing articles about trying to figure this out. So there's no real answer.
And I think it really ties into what we are trying to do with this podcast, is just thinking about
what are we trying to do?
Beth, shut up. We're trying to make people be more flexible. I mean, I think that we're trying to make people be less rigid about things and sort of think, because I think that is one of the problems I have with what a modern conception of like free will and things like that is that a lot of people are quite rigid about this because it gives them a sense of like autonomy, or in terms of like all of the sort of things that they're doing, and also and I think there's some good things because it allows people to like have a sense of responsibility and things like that, so I think that there's a real push and pull, or not, as the case may be, but I think before we even started this, I always had a real way of thinking that whatever your sort of belief system is, I think once you become too rigid with it, become too entrenched with it, that's where problems start. Even if it's like a fairly nice thought process to begin with, it can sour quite easily if you're not prepared to go, oh, I was completely wrong about this thing, at all times.
Mm-hmm. There's some people in my life that will carry through a bad idea all the way to the end. And it's like, that's, I guess, what I'm trying to do more with myself in general, is to stop and assess and be like, is this still a good idea?
Yes.
Is this like, right? And so I think that's part of, just to echo chamber you.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
I know. And because I think it can be easy to just keep going down a path because, well, I've already started on it, but I think it's harder to actually look at something and go, this isn't working for me, this isn't working for other people who are involved, is it time to make a change?
Yeah. Immensely
Immensely hard thing to do. I'm talking about this like it's like, wee buns, as they say in this country.
Wee buns?
Yeah, do you know wee buns?
Uh-uh.
That's a piece of slang I should have used. So, the classic Northern Irish wee, W-E-E, and then B-U-N-S. So buns are like, cakes and stuff. And if somebody says something is wee buns, it's easy.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
you just
American.
slam that sucker in your mouth and you barely have to chew it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Buns. Goes down easy.
It's so sweet. It's just so... You guys have the cutest sayings.
Shut up, Beth. We're rugged and tough.
I know, it's true.
Okay.
It's true, all the power. Yeah. Do you want to start? Do you have questions?
Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit. I think that so something that I read quite a few years ago that really pushed me down this path. Oh, well, for a start, I think that I started reading some quantum physics stuff in. I'm not going to get into the weeds in this, folks, but whenever I was in my 20s, and what it taught me more than anything was that the structures that I believed like the world was kind of based on were, just kind of conjecture, and were just like a best guess based on the information that we have. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the difficulty with that subject, quantum physics, in my opinion, is conceptually, because it just feels so alien to how we all think the world works. So it really kind of helped me, because I was always somebody who struggles with like systems and a lot of the things that we were told, and I really wasn't sure how to fit that into that the structure, the way the world worked. But then as I found out that that's not concrete by any stretch of the imagination, I then read a book in my early 30s called Thinking Fast and Slow.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's pretty famous. The guy, Daniel Kahneman, he talks a lot about this, and it was really an analysis of how the brain works, and the part of your brain that kind of like it basically runs the show most of the time, and the actual part of your brain that is responsible for doing more complicated things like math problems or making important decisions, and how hands off that is for most of the time, how much energy that part of your brain uses, and like just by necessity how your brain needs to function that autopilot, or else you would become overloaded and collapse in like no time at all. I thought that was, and that really kind of then sent me down this path, thinking more about these deeper questions about free will and how the brain works and how decision making works. So I think that was my first sort of stepping stone in that direction.
So I'm just gonna bust in here with the definition of free will.
Yeah.
The power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate, the ability to act at one's own discretion.
Yeah.
And I read an article, I think it was Stanford, put out something around free will. I could be wrong, someone correct me. But basically saying that we don't have free will because of basically everything, when you're born, who you're born to, how you're raised, all of these things, all of these little things that make us who we are, right? And make us the individuals that we are, basically predetermine your response to everything, and how like just because I'm talking about this really, really badly, but basically like you are who you are, and therefore you will make this decision, and therefore this will be the outcome, and and on and on and on, which I wanted to pose that to you to see what you thought about that as a concept.
I think that's true. Like I think the problem, some of it, and like my problem with how some of it comes across is that like it is very black and white. So like it becomes like, oh, therefore if there is no free will, therefore what, anarchy? And I don't think it's as big a swing as that, like, because I think that there's a lot of stuff that like, I think there's so much dissonance in the reality and all of our realities, and like I think that's yeah, I know, right? But I think that's really tough for people because they want something stable, to hold on to. And I completely sympathize with that, because I do too, So like I think that's kind of one of the problems. So like, you know, people seem to think, if there's no free will, and I guess just to clarify what I'm saying, if I say that I don't think there's free will, I don't think the sort of standard definition of it is correct. But I still think we certainly have some autonomy in some of the things that we do. I don't think that it means that there's no such thing as personal responsibility. I don't think, you know, I think that like we can still make impactful decisions in our lives. Like, I think that, you know, because it seems like sometimes it goes from, if there is no free will, then determinism is real, and every action, everything that is going to happen has been determined from the Big Bang. I think that's
Yes.
mad,
Yes.
to be honest.
From the Big Bang to us deciding to have, like, sitting here having a podcast, deciding to talk about free will.
Yes, it's
like
that's
the line.
We're on reels, and the reels led us to Benty podcast.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Was it Indiana Jones 2?
That's
when
sent
there was
us
a little
here.
cart.
Yes, yeah. And like Indy was shooting tracks and stuff and moving tracks. So.
Well, okay, so for those that think that we have what is this? What do you think free will is freedom from?
That's a good question. So I guess freedom from determinism then, and you know, freedom from that autopilot, you know, that I mean, there's certain things, and also there's certain things as well, in terms of, you know, these bodies we were born into, and you know, their history as well, not just, you know, our own history, and like, you know, an instinct and things like that. And they're, you know, going back to that Kahneman book, he talked about, like, you know, the fast brain, the slow brain, but also the, like, third brain, which is your instincts, which is your fear instincts that, you know, floods your system with chemicals whenever something scary is happening, and so on and so forth, and like how that impacts your thinking and things like that as well. So I don't think that I think it is that it's not so much freedom from determinism, it's freedom from being told what to do. It's to make people feel like they are on their own, they're doing their thing, they're making decisions for themselves, they are strong, independent individuals. I think that that's what it is. It's freedom from, I guess, tyranny or those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I remember in, you know, grades like 12, like 10 through 12, we were talking a lot about nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
And we all as a class sort of came to the determination that it's both.
Yeah.
Nature and nurture.
It is 100%. I think.
And so I'm wondering if free will is, I'm wondering if free will and predetermination, could it be both?
Yeah, I think like there's a possibility both things have. I mean, like, there is abundant evidence that, you know, you're shaped by your environment, and we're shaped by our bodies, and we're shaped by, you know, evolution, you know. So I think there definitely is both. I think there's a lot of that in there. Like, I think that the very general idea of free will is very different to how we operate, you know, like, and there's, I mean, even everybody in their own lives knows that there's so much that they do, and I'm sure have had many experiences in their life where they are like, or even driving, for example, and they're at their destination and they're like, I have zero memory of that journey, and your brain's just taken control and it's done everything it needs to do and it's got you there, you know. And I think that's more common than people might think, you know, like, and like, even in terms of more meaningful decisions, there was a documentary about this that I watched a few years ago as well, and Callum was interviewed as part of it. But what was interesting was they went and they sent some people out to a park, and they saw people who were walking and said, look, can I walk with you and ask you a few questions? And they asked them a few questions, and then they asked them relatively complex mathematical equations, and every person had to like stop. They couldn't walk and do this because their brain, the body needed to like go into rest mode while the brain took all the energy it needed to kind of figure this out. And I thought that was so interesting.
Fascinating.
Because like, and the point was made then that, if, I think I was saying this earlier, like if you need to do these more complicated things, you can't, your body needs to allocate all its resources to it, and like you just couldn't do that all day long. You would last an hour at best.
You'd be like, I need a nap.
Yeah. So I think there's value in us not having free will all the time, in terms of just keeping us moving, and and hoping that the things that you have like learned, the things that you have taught yourself, will serve you well, and I think there's some responsibility in that as well, like exposing yourself to, and I understand that everybody has the luxury of this, but like exposing yourself to like good people and good things can really kind of help you move forward in a meaningful way, both for yourself and for other people.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I like the idea of both, honestly.
I think there is a mixture, and it's like, so here's another thing, and I think there's plenty of reassurances in crazy systems. So like, there is, so in terms of the whole determinism thing, which was saying that everything's on tracks, that there's no real randomness. Everything is predetermined based on whatever. But there is provable, genuine randomness in quantum physics. Like that is completely and we as a species are like, and any scientist who it seems to be worth their salt admits that they just know that they're doing their best, but they're prepared for more things to come out, and they're prepared for like things that could potentially completely blow up their systems in the future. I went to see I've forgotten his name now. He's a British scientist. Oh no, I can't remember. He's a physicist.
Do you want to mind palace
Brian Cox. I've just
look at you go. Okay, Brian Cox.
I'm not that Brian Cox. Not Successions. You
did not even need Doug for that.
Exactly, nice Doug. Work. Doug. I need your work to be better. So not fuck off Brian Cox from Succession. The physicist Brian Cox. You don't know this about Brian Cox from Succession, that like people like just come up to the street and say, "Can you tell me to fuck off?" Which is hilarious. Anyway, so I went to see he was doing this tour where they had what a fucking nerd I am. So I went to this arena tour where they had all this incredible footage from the James Webb Space Telescope, and they had a really high definition screen and like a projector, and they were showing all this stuff, and they were talking about physics. And in it, like, they took questions at the end, and one of the questions was from a girl, and she said, "Look, I am being taught classical physics in school. Do you think there's, considering what we know about quantum physics and how fast and how how far it's progressing in recent years, is it still worth pursuing this stuff?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely it is, because it is still a useful model to how we interpret the universe and how we interact with the universe. And classical physics has allowed us to like go into space, has allowed us to do all these incredible achievements and things, so it's still useful, and it will remain being useful until we find something that can replace it in a meaningful way." And I really like that way of looking at it.
It's what we have for now, and so that's what we go with. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that is true for everything. I thought that was a great way of thinking about things.
So have you ever had an experience where you felt like something in your life was predetermined?
I like that question.
Thanks.
I often think about like relationships that way sometimes, like I seem to like, we adopt the same patterns and things like that, and like especially when it's something like nebulous like love, and you're like, what is this, why is this happening to me? And the paths that it leads you down, and like I have 100% repeated mistakes So I definitely have felt like that in relationships 100%, more so than anything. I think like, you mean, like, me, that I really like kind of bucking the system as much as possible, and have, blown up my life multiple times. I traveled to America.
It's not blowing it up. It's like I think of
Reinventing it, I guess.
Nah, yeah, it's like putting reinvention is better than blowing up.
Yeah, you're right. It is, and I'm glad I've done that, because I just kind of don't want to rest on my laurels, and I like to um, make these big swings, because I might find something that I really love, and I might find someone that I love, so why not kind of make that swing? But like, it's always scary at the same time, but it's definitely the right way to go about it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What was the initial question, sorry, that led to that?
I would just ask if you've ever like had an experience that you felt like, wow, this might be like,
and I talk about relationships,
yeah. Which, I mean, I think most of us would probably go there.
Yeah. That's the immediate one that springs to mind, like the top of my brain. Do you have anything?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike and I lived in he lived in Columbus, Ohio. I lived in this like tiny town in Kentucky that no one's ever heard of, but we were not that far apart. We both moved from Oregon the same year to Oregon the same year, 1989. We lived down the street from each other. Went to the same schools.
So sorry, go back. Kentucky.
Yes.
You lived close to each other in Kentucky as well. How close did you say again?
He was in Ohio, which is like right across, like
yep,
right across it was a couple hours away from each other, so not far. I mean, it's not like right down the street or whatever.
Sure, but it's not.
You hear stories like this, right, where it's like same.
Yeah.
So like not far from each other. Moved same
Oregon.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Lived down the street. Like they, like, literally like down the street from me. Went to school together. Knew him in high school, middle school and high school. We didn't date, but like knew him. He went off into the world. He blew up his life and and moved away, moved out of the country, and I didn't see him again for 10 years. But during that time, his mom became my client, and I got out of a relationship. He got deported from French Polynesia for overstaying his visa and had to come back to the States for 2 weeks. And she was like, Beth is single right now, like you should call her. And he did. So it's just like all these little things adding up. And then he called me, and that was it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like all of those little things happening. What if he had been, I mean, it's a lot of little coincidences that added up to us getting married and having, 2 offspring. So
yeah, that's pretty rad.
I don't know if it's necessarily predetermination. I just really like the story itself.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
And I think, that is also why, it's why, like, I think that we can believe in free will, but also kind of believe in fate to a certain extent, or destiny. Do you know what I mean? Like, those things on their surface should really clash with each other, but I think that there's, like, again, that's the dissonance I think I'm talking about, because it's just like, it's just about finding the cracks where those can kind of fit together, I think, rather than thinking about them as these, like, big concrete areas,
Well, and like the idea that we must separate them out from each other, like that doesn't do either service at all. And like, having that conversation about nature and nurture, and then coming to the realization that, it could be both. It's like, why can't we think of these two things, predetermination and, free will versus, whatever we want to have happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why they can't coexist. And I don't know why more people aren't having this conversation.
But I mean,
because they're not as awesome as us, obviously.
That's so true. But I think a lot of problems are that people don't really want to. We talked about this a bit. Don't want to appear ignorant, right? Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you can't speak about something in absolute terms, then there's a chance people will go, well, you don't fucking know what you're talking about, and that's scary for a lot of people.
Right.
And like, in my mind, like, such a key part of the learning process is, excuse me, living in ignorance for a while and just being okay with that. And like some people are going to treat you like shit because of it, because that's their insecurities and whatnot. But that is an important way to kind of get, you know, the skills that you need. You know, like I talked recently about yoga. I saw some friends I hadn't seen in a while. I was talking to them about my yoga teaching experience, and I was like, I like ate shit for like 6 months. Like I was doing not terrible classes. I mean, like they were maybe not that bad, but like in my mind, looking back now, they were not good. I was nervous. I was like forgetting things. But like I don't. And like at the time, there was times I was mortified afterwards, but I'm really glad that they allowed me to get where I am now, and I'm glad that I was able to like be vulnerable enough that I could do that, put myself in that place, you know. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I feel like I had something else. What was it? I don't even know. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. But
I
it is.
have a question. As always. So when you take an action on something, do you feel as though you are the one taking action always? Or do you sometimes feel like something else is guiding you?
I know what I was going to talk about. I'm going to make a note of it. So I don't know. That's a good question. I think that there's a lot of times where I know I'm on autopilot, you know, and like, and afterwards, like I'll maybe like scold myself for it because I'm like, oh, you were quite rude there because you know you weren't engaging properly. But I definitely sell into that if I can get away with it sometimes, you know, if I'm like, and it depends on how I'm physically feeling as well. If I'm feeling tired or whatever, I will oftentimes go into that place, you know. What about you?
I don't think that, like, not always.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, not always. I think you're right. It's like that concept of like, oh, you know, like the autopilot of doing certain things.
Yep.
But I would say with bigger decisions and bigger like life decisions that need to be made, for the most part, I do enough. This just sounds stupid. I think about it enough. Like I do some thinking, right? And in going through that process of like, okay, what are the risks versus rewards? I do feel that it is me taking action, and there's no like guiding hand or like external force that's like, this is, you know, some Monty Python voice that's like, this is the way it's supposed to be, or whatever, you know, go this way. I don't. I think it's me. And maybe that's my ego, which, you know, I'm all about my ego. There's a place, you know, it exists for a reason, so.
It does. And I think, I'm 100%. I think I can definitely help you in those things. And it's, I definitely, like, and I say this as like somebody who feels like I have a pretty good control over, you know, some aspects of my life, and I still feel like I'm on autopilot sometimes. Like, and that's also, and I also feel kind of shitty when I'm doing that because it's like I'm not engaging with my friends the way I would like to, but it's just who I am.
For me, it's, you know, totally the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like I have this thing that like turns on when I'm in social situations, and and then I'm just on. And the charm comes out, obviously, and I just exude. I'm being a little facetious, but not really.
No, I understand.
It's just like some switch turns on, and I kind of don't have control over it necessarily. Yeah. It's just like I know what needs to be said. I know how people need to feel in order for the evening to be like a successful evening, and I just go there, and I don't have that little voice that's like, "What the fuck are you saying?" or like. I don't, like when I'm in social situations, sorry, that's a tongue twister, like that little voice gets shut off for me.
I think that like it does happen to me sometimes, and like it certainly like, and I think I was going to like say 50-50, but I think it does. I think I can be pretty good with it sometimes, but I definitely do notice other times when I'm autopilot. I suppose it depends on my level of familiarity with people, right? If it's somebody I'm really close to and they are used to, you know, me and my peculiarities, it's like it's it's easy, and also because like I also then the people who form those bond with, like we probably have shared peculiarities, and if you're listening, you know who you are, all my friends, and I love that, and I think that there's something magical about those sort of peculiarities kind of meeting each other in a way, but yeah, but I think the social one for me is more alarming. I don't really like it as such, and it's just my general sort of issue with socializational stuff. Wow, that was not a good sentence, but you understand what I'm saying. One of the things that I wanted before we was that I made a note of there was like my attitude to like tarot cards and like in terms of in recent years, and I think that like going down the yoga path was really interesting to me because I went out from a physical point of view because I had a bad back and blah blah blah, and then the sort of spiritual side of things became more meaningful to me, and like part of that, and I certainly wasn't completely connected to it, but like, tarot cards would be always something that I would view with skepticism, star signs also, and then I think that's pretty typical of men. It says pretty typical of men in this country, and like, but like, I it was presented to me, and I think this was what I needed to hear to kind of like click into it in a way, because I'm much more interested in it now, was that somebody said, rather than thinking about them as something that can predict the future, which is something that I'm skeptical about, if you think about them as a therapeutic tool and as a way to analyze things that are going on internally and make them external, there's some real value there. And I'm like, I couldn't have put it better myself. That's the perfect way to look at it, and it allowed me a way into this thing that I was, as I say, was always deeply kind of like, that's a load of old rubbish. And I don't really like being that way about anything, honestly. I always like to give a bit of leeway to everything, because it's maybe just my prejudices or my understanding or misunderstanding of a thing that's preventing me to interface with it. But I really like that as a way into like tarot cards and star signs and things like that.
And we didn't really get into religion in this conversation, and obviously like that's a whole nother like 3 episodes. And I think we're just kind of trying to get down to the essence of it without pulling too much of that in. Yeah. But like just in my own like life practice, I use different decks, different tools to journal, like almost like a journal prompt, where I'll pull a tarot or a tarot card, however you pronounce it, and that will. I'll be like, okay, I'm having this problem, and it will help me maybe think of it in a different way. Yeah. Or, it'll help me write about it, and then I can sort of figure out a way through that issue in my own way, just because it's some sort of like external thing that helps you look at yourself a little bit differently. And I think that if that's what you get out of it, that's fucking fantastic.
And like, I wonder, is that one of the reasons, or maybe it's part of the reason why you find men are so kind of like resistant to it, because like it is an analysis tool, and like men historically do not want to get in touch with their emotions, right? Unless it's anger, the male emotion. But yeah, so it's interesting. But yeah. So,
I have a big question.
Do you have anything else?
I have a big one. question? Yeah. All right. Okay, so, if you could find out when you would die to be able to change things, would you want to know that? Like Doc Brown in Back to the Future.
Yeah, partially that's something I thought about a lot. With some of the things I'm writing about are kind of about that sort of subject. I think it's a really interesting one. I think I want to be kind of surprised by that, really. I mean, there's part of me would love to like have that sort of like concrete information, but then any of that sort of information that you might have, how could it possibly be concrete if it hasn't happened yet as well, would be my thinking, But yeah, I think I would be like, no, you know what? I'll take the surprise. What about you?
I would totally want to know.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Good for you. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, because, like, what if it was, like, a car accident? And then I could be like, oh, I'm not going to go drive on the road that day. And I know then, like, all these other little tangents and, like, lifelines.
That might lead you there,
Right, or whatever. But I would like to know. I've had enough close near-death experiences that I just kind of want to know. Because it's not a very comfortable place to be.
And now I think about it, I hate surprises, so yeah, tell me. So I'm doing a complete 180 here.
Nope, that was your chance, because I know, and now I can't tell you.
Okay,
so,
fine, that's all right.
Sorry, I read it in the tarot cards.
Is it, what is it, am I in a light airplane with like 4 supermodels?
No. Field, playing golf, you're going to get hit by lightning.
3 supermodels? Okay, all right.
3 supermodels?
Yeah, I was trying to hedge my bets
in a limousine?
There. Yeah, in a limousine, yeah, playing golf, that's okay, all right.
Yes,
we can figure it out. Okay, perfect. Okay, do you have anything else, or shall we start wrapping things up, do you think?
I just want to ask why you're here.
Why I'm here.
Why are you here?
Here to build connections with people. I think that that's the only thing that matters, and I think that the relationships that I have built in this life are the only thing that matters, really. And I want to continue doing that and strengthening those relationships, and yeah, that's why I'm here.
Good.
What about you?
I'm here to podcast. No.
Hell yeah! Beth just dunked a basketball again.
I mean, I'm not insincere with that, actually.
No.
Like, I'm here to be part of this point in history, and I think part of that is this podcast. Because, this is our own little, like, doggy footprint in the sand, you know?
It's true.
I'm here to make others feel not as alone, and I'm here to do my part to raise a generation of kind humans, and I'm here to love myself.
Hell yeah, those are great. Yeah. Okay. I want to steal at least 2 of those to add on to mine. Okay. So.
Okay. As per usual.
So I'm like copying Beth's homework over her shoulder.
And I'm letting him do it, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all for a good cause. So I think that's good. Like, and as I say, all we were doing is we talked about this topic ages ago, and we thought it was an interesting thing to talk about. And I think this is just a very kind of light discussion of it, but I think it's an interesting thing, thought experiment. Something to kind of mull over, and like as always, if you have any sort of other thoughts on this or any sort of feedback, we always love to hear it. Please just let us know.
What do you think?
Exactly.
Inquiring minds of Andy and Beth and Doug, we want to know.
No, just send stuff to Doug. I don't want to get your messages, okay? Don't DM me directly. How dare you? The insolence.
It's fine. I'll protect you.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about joy?
Yeah, I guess.
Joy down in your heart.
So, what has been bringing me joy? I mean, I guess that I saw from friends. I saw a friend that I didn't expect to see for possibly this year as at a surprise on Friday. I don't like surprises normally, but I'm comfortable enough with her that it was fine, and so that was lovely. I have started, because I love my fucking products, right? Like, I'm talking about free will and fucking freedom of thinking, and then I'm like shilling some shit. So I started Baldur's Gate 3 this weekend, and it has been great fun, and is a really kind of really expansive sort of. I do quite like in my video games a curated experience to take me from A to B, but this is just like a spider web of decisions and going out in all sort of different directions, and really like complex relationships, great writing. So it's definitely bringing me joy. It's engaging me in a way that I always really crave in that sort of thing. So it's really working for me. So yeah, that's been bringing me joy.
Great. I played. I think I played 1, but I'm still like. I need to upgrade my consoles.
This like I am not gonna like this is like I was dreading this game because I wanted to play it so badly because it really implemented the role playing game in a way that has never been done before. But people were like, it's a 150-hour game, and I'm like, oh my god.
This is what you spent jazz tickets on?
Yes.
I sent Andy money through PayPal, and he's like, I already spent it on video games. I was like, okay.
It's true. And that is a true story. That's exactly what I did.
That's good.
It would either be that money or my money, okay? So I was going to spend some money on video games.
Right. Baldur's Gate, be our sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah, please. Mm-hmm. What about you? What's been bringing you joy?
You know, I've been watching the show on Netflix, Love on the Spectrum.
Oh, I've heard about this. Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm crying at this show. It is so wonderful. It's people that they're on the autism spectrum or the Asperger's spectrum, and they're humans just like the rest of us, and so it's the story of them trying to find love, and they're going on dates, and they're just like the rest of us where they're nervous and they don't know what to say, but many of them are so comfortable talking about how they're nervous and trying to figure out, social cues, and, sometimes it doesn't work out, but when it does, and even when it doesn't, it's just their interactions with each other. It's so interesting because it's so distilled to the essence of it, to the essence of really just like the fact that we are all here just trying to find a partner, just to find love, and they don't give up. They keep going. They keep trying. They actually have counselors. Some of them are also on the spectrum that are helping them work through, like, okay, you're in this situation. This is what you would say. This is what you would do. And, some go on speed dating evenings, and, yeses and nos. And it's just, and the success stories are just the sweetest. Like, there's this couple that have fallen in love, and like they both love lions, and so he took her on a trip to South Africa to go see lions in real life, and like, it's just, I can't, if you want to feel good and feel happy and like believe in love, just watch the show because it's really special.
That's really awesome. That sounds lovely. I love it.
Yeah.
There's like, and it's not certainly related to like autism related, but it's just I think there's something so powerful about that sort of connection based on something else. I was another video game I was playing recently. I think I talked to you a bit about it. I think it's got some of the most incredible writing I've ever played in a game, and it's somebody who loves like space, and a friend like bringing them to like this space museum and like giving them like a tape with the like launch of the first rockets, and like telling them to close their eyes and listening to it, and it was just really special and magical, and I love that sort of stuff. That's class.
Yeah. So I highly recommend that people watch it because also it's like it's a nice break from, because I watch a lot of like reality TV love shows where people are like dating and they're like backstabbing each other and they're just
or murder porn.
Oh no! What?
No, do you know what's murder? Do you know what's murder documentaries that much? Actually, I thought you were.
Murder porn? No.
So,
just murder.
Just murder. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Without the porn.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
I'm sure that's maybe. I'm gonna Google it.
Let's actually, Beth, don't Google that, please. I really don't want you to Google it. We will find things neither of us want to know.
Right. I'll have a full report for you next week.
Oh no! What have I done?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It is nice to watch things that kind of like warm your heart. I have started watching Bear season 2, and it is very much that.
Oh my god,
it's
the best.
Lovely. Just some really nice human interactions in that show as well that are really kind of ground me in a nice way. But yeah.
And ones like you don't expect or you're gonna see, and like lots of cameos. You're just like, this person's in this show too, and like everyone is trying to get on this show at this point. So
good.
I want on put me on.
Yeah. So the casting directors of The Bear.
Yes.
Put Beth and Andy on season 3.
I'll just walk by with an umbrella. That's fine.
We have an excellent day rate.
We'll pay you.
Yeah, we'll pay you. Yeah.
All right.
But I think we're coming to an end.
Wrap it up.
So, folks, we would like you to hold on. We would like to remind you, as always, to stay bendy.
You still got deeper than me.
A good one. Yeah. All right. We love you. Bye.
Love you, everybody. Bye. 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 Bye.